Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, sir. Chairman Livingston of the Transportation and Public Safety Committee. My name is Brendan Lyons. I'm a non-paid executive director of Look Save a Life. I myself am a trauma survivor and a former firefighter. Sadly, as a former firefighter, I've seen firsthand how devastating these crashes are, not only to those who fallen victim, but to the families left behind to pick up the pieces. Unfortunately, I've lived this reality. According to my crash report on October 4th, 2013, a motorist traveling at 45 miles per hour struck my girlfriend and I from behind as we were bicycling in a dedicated bike lane on my day off, on the morning of her birthday. I sustained numerous spinal and pelvis fractures, was treated to a traumatic brain injury, and forced to a lengthy hospital recovery, not to mention losing my career as a firefighter. I went through months of doctor's appointments with seemingly endless physical, cognitive, occupational, and vocational rehabilitation. I often had to use a wheelchair just to get around and couldn't drive for up to 6 months due to my diagnosed traumatic brain injury. I'm lucky to be standing before you as a survivor. And as a survivor, I have a level of responsibility to use my voice for those who no longer have one. I'm going to give you guys some numbers. 26 jurisdictions have adopted ordinances in the state of Arizona to regulate distracted driving. 23 of those jurisdictions are hands-free. To further underscore the significant growing trend of those 26 ordinances, 15 of them have been adopted since the start of 2018. 15 jurisdictions have adopted hands-free ordinances. I could talk about the statistics and the number of crashes and fatalities that are on the rise right here in Arizona, but this isn't about numbers.
30 seconds.
This is about lives. Such lives, and please hold them up, as Salt River Police Officer Clayton Townsend, DPS Officer Timothy Huffman, former Phoenix firefighter Thomas Hall, Barbara Applebaum, Megan Lee, Daniel Wilson, Robert Lucky, Frank Frassetto, Rob Dollar, John Hines, Timothy Breslin, John Knorr, Sean Doss, Humberto Noah, Kathy Cook, Michael Allison, Manuel Patton, and Linda Doyle. Yes, distracted driving does take the shape in many forms. There are those who manipulate their phones, and there are those who do engage in many other activities while driving. The three major factors to consider are our exposure to risk, the prevalence of use, and the degree of distraction. Cell phones are off the charts when it comes to this. I implore you not only to pass this bill, but by a unanimous decision, you will be sending a loud message to our state legislature that now is the time to adopt this. It will take a concerted effort of elected officials, law enforcement, safety advocates to end this deadly trend. Together, we will drive down distracted driving. My name is Brendan Lyons. Thank you.
Brandon, excellent testimony. Thank you. Members, any questions? Yes, Senator, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair Brendan. I've sat on the Transportation Committee for many years, and I've seen the same families, sorry, I get choked up, the same families holding up pictures of their loved ones. So I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for continually coming here and reliving your nightmare to educate not only these two chambers, but all of the Arizonans. Brendan, you have made a huge difference for the state, for many cities, and you keep fighting. Your work is, I mean, it's priceless. It's so valuable. So I cannot thank you enough. When we did the press release out there, my brother-in-law saw it on the news and called me and said, he started crying, and he said, thank you. And I said, no, you gotta thank Brendan. You gotta thank Brendan for his work. And Steve Farley, former Senator Steve Farley, who worked on this for 12 years to get it through. But he said he's so worried about his kids, my nieces and nephews, who constantly drive, texting, kids, you name it, it's all gone. And then while speaking to Senator Brophy McGee, when we've been talking about some of the new language, she said, you know, it's even changed my life. Every time I pick up my phone in my car, I'm like, no, I can't do that. You've touched lives, all of you have, more than you know. And for that, I say thank you. And I just wanted to say that a lot of work has gone into this, one of the last 3 states.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Members, any additional questions? Thank you very much for your testimony. Hi, Ms. Brophy McGee.
Brendan Lyons is a force of nature.
Yep.
I look at the progress we made, and Mr. Lyons, you were in my office just a few months ago. Remember that? And we talked about Yavapai County, and all of a sudden this thing picked up light speed. I've been here, this is my 5th year, and last year we couldn't do anything. And here we are. We're on the verge of a major, major bill because of Representative Chavez and Representative Brophy McGee, and we hope it's going to be good, strong legislation. And I just want to thank you as the champion for these families. It's everybody, but you're the tip of the spear here for us. You're the fellow we had to deal with, and we were glad to see it. You know, that's how you get legislation done. You're very effective, and I thank you for that. And with that, I vote aye.
We were waiting and wanting the state to do something that is their responsibility, not ours. But because of their failure to act, this board is going to take on the action to ratify this and hopefully entice other counties to come on board as well. Furthermore, enticing the state to be able to act as their responsible party.
We have grown since the start of session from 21 municipalities. We are now up to 27 municipalities. I am proud to introduce Brendan Lyons in the gallery, who is the executive director of Look Save a Life. He's a former firefighter who responded to these types of consequences until his firefighting career was cut short when a distracted motorist at 45 miles per hour struck him and his fiancée from behind while they were bicycling. This has got to stop.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote.
Proceed.
Thank you. Members and guests in the gallery, it has been an honor to serve in the Transportation Committee. But the hardest thing that happens every year is families come in holding the pictures of the loved ones they've lost. And the committee room is full. Many of us on the committee are moved to tears. I pray for the day in Arizona that these families do not have to continue to come to committee and tell of the tragedies that their loved ones faced. I too want to thank Brendan Lyons, who continues to travel around the state, helping cities and towns and jurisdictions put in place no texting rules. Thank you, Brendan. You've saved lives.
Thank you, Senator. Members, have you all voted? Members, by way of explaining my vote, I know that there's issues on both sides of this. I also know that there are 28 municipalities that have now passed regulations, and I believe that this has become a statewide concern. This bill has been supported by the Fraternal Order of Police, the Arizona Association of Chiefs of Police, Arizona State Troopers Association, Arizona Police Association, Arizona Fire District Association, Professional Firefighters of Arizona, the Arizona Trunking, as well as a number of others. It seeks to create a uniform law that would be statewide, superseding all other municipalities, which would give all of our motorists, as well as our business owners and everyone else, the ability to know exactly what our laws are from one city to another city. So with that, I vote aye. By a vote of 20 ayes, 10 nays, 0 not voting, you have passed Senate Bill 1165 with the emergency clause. Signed in open session, the Secretary is instructed to record the action and transmit the bill to the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to explain my vote.
Please, ma'am.
Actually, we all know cities and counties over the last couple years have decided to take it into their own hands to pass ordinances because this state wasn't doing its job. Even when I was on the Goodyear City Council, we addressed this and discussed it. And we decided as a city that was flanked by many other cities that didn't have the same laws that we would not do it, but would insist that the state get the job done. And so I'm very proud to be standing here today to be able to address this.
Votes yes. Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to explain my vote.
Please.
Thank you, sir. There's a young man who's been in my office many, many times over this issue who he and I met in 2013. Brandon, Mr. Lyons was my patient. He's told many, many people that, and so I don't mind sharing. When he was hurt, I participated in his care. And I am thanking you personally for your efforts in championing this issue, making sure that this gets done this year. As Leader Fernandez has said, this is a historic day for Arizona. And I'm proud to vote yes on House Bill 2318.
Thank you. Mr. Freeze votes yes. Mr. Sierra?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to explain my vote.
Please, sir.
Thank you. You know, justice delayed is, I suppose, most sweet when it often comes to pass. I was a city councilman in Avondale when a Tucson resident reached out to me asking if we could do a texting ban on driving in the city of Avondale. Well, the mayor and I went round and round and round and round, and we ultimately came to the conclusion that it is the job of this body here and the Senate and the governor to put in place that sort of measure. And I want to thank Brendan Lyons for coming out and holding me accountable as a public servant with tireless dedication, tireless passion, with never taking no for an answer. He may have heard no's for many, many years, but today I think you're seeing a lot of green up there, and a lot of that is due to you. So I wanted to thank you for making me a better legislator, and to the families, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I vote aye.
Thank you, Mr. Sierra. Mr. Lawrence?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to explain my vote.
Please, sir.
First of all, I want to thank Brendan. We're Facebook friends, and he approached me yesterday and said, where are you on these bills? And I said, well, I like Mr. Mesnard's bill. And he explained any number of reasons why this bill we're looking at right now is the correct bill. And I will vote yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence votes aye. Mr. Chavez?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to explain my vote.
Please, sir.
Thank you, sir. Courage is the trait that we need to fight adversities. Meanwhile, willpower is one tribute that we must always lead with in order to make a change for what's best for the people of the state of Arizona. It has taken almost a decade of efforts from numerous individuals to reach today, Thursday, April 18th, a day in which the Arizona State Legislature acts upon this epidemic that haunts the roads of the state of Arizona. And for that, for those individuals in the gallery, I apologize that it has taken us this long to act so that you can find peace in your hearts. Now, this day has not come to light because of us, the legislators. It has been because of the countless hours that these individuals have endured here at their state capitol. To a tireless champion who has been down here for many, many years and who I today can consider a friend, Brendan Lyons, thank you. Thank you for calling us out, for harassing us in the hallway, and for making sure that today would eventually happen. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are taking a vote to make the state of Arizona a safer place to live in and safer for our people to drive on. And with that, I proudly vote aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez votes aye. Ms. Fernandez?
I vote yes for the many people, and we heard so many names from each side of the aisle of family members and friends that have lost their lives because of carelessness of someone else texting. For the people in the gallery that lost loved ones, I proudly vote yes. I would be remiss if I didn't ask for everyone, every family member who has advocated for this bill and who are standing or sitting in the audience to please stand up. I want to thank you. I want each and every one of the members of this House to thank you for holding our feet to the fire. You made this happen. Things don't happen here without you. Thank you very much, and with that, I vote yes.
I'd like to explain my vote. I'm not going to politicize this, but the Townsends aren't alone in the gallery. There are others who have also lost family members and loved ones. And in the many years that I've served in this room and in the Senate, there have been many others in the galleries through those decades who, for whatever reasons, were here promoting a solution in the hopes that it would provide both solace to them and hopefully would provide life or freedom from injury to others in the future. I'd like to thank, though, the Townsends. I'd like to thank Brendan for your work. I'd like to thank our governor for pushing this, provoking us to good works, as it were. But I'd like to challenge ourselves and our fellow citizens. We have passed a law, but we have not passed force. The tragedies, as I mentioned, are of value to us because they teach us. For those who have gone through tragedy, we respect that. We don't remove that pain because it is such a huge teaching privilege to learn, to be better. And I challenge our state to do that. And I vote aye. Would you please close the board? By your votes of 44 ayes, 16 nays, you have passed with an emergency measure House Bill 2318. Signed in open session. The clerk is instructed to record the action of the House and to send this bill to the governor.
We've seen it on our roads and on our freeways. A driver swerves into your lane. Instead of looking at the road, they're looking at their phone. If we're honest, many of us have found ourselves distracted by a cell phone at one time or another. In the fortunate cases, it ends in a close call, a courtesy honk, or maybe a fender bender. But we know that that's not always the result. And for far too many families, this situation leads to a much more tragic ending. In the blink of an eye, a family member lost, a loved one gone forever. These devices have changed the way we live in so many ways. But together, texting and driving is a deadly combination. Just look around here today, and you get an idea of the scale of this problem. With us are family members and victims of distracted driving. Mothers who have lost sons, husbands and wives who have lost spouses, children who have lost parents. Through their pain and suffering, we know the true cost of distracted driving. And thanks to their courage and advocacy, today, we do something about it. This legislation represents an issue whose time has come. when Arizona says it is no longer okay to text or do anything else with your phone while behind the wheel. It's common sense, and it will save lives. Behind me are people who deserve immense credit for getting this legislation across the finish line, including Brendan Lyons. As a firefighter, Brendan responded to many crashes involving bikes and vehicles, some of them fatal. As an avid cyclist, Brendan has been the victim of several distracted driving collisions, including one that nearly cost him his life. Brendan, thank you for your tireless advocacy and the efforts to save lives. Today's action is born out of a passion to save lives. So for the sake of public safety, common sense, and all of our loved ones who just want to see us get home safely, let's sign this bill. And let's send a message that text message can wait. It's not worth your life. Thank you. #2318, the law of the land.